Thank you, Frank. I will assume the chairman responsibilities as you referred to, and let's welcome everybody to the August, not the 10th, it's the 13th, August 13th, Water Sewer Commission meeting. We're on a Thursday instead of the Tuesday, but welcome everybody. We're going to have a relatively quick and to the point meeting tonight. We don't have a lot on the agenda. Let's go ahead and start with the superintendent update.
All right, thanks, Luke. I'll start with a quick system update. About 2 weeks ago, July 28th, one of our emergency generators was in the process of doing its routine exercise, and the unit actually caught fire. It's at our well 4 location, which is one of the wells that supplies the water treatment facility. The incident was found the next morning. This generator here does not switch and actually power the well station. It actually runs and it just exercises the generator motor itself. That is why there was no alarms indicated outside of the annunciator panel on the unit itself. So upon investigation, we noticed there was significant damage to some of the wiring, way above anything that we wanted to even attempt to handle in-house, which we have done some minor repairs on units in the past. We were able to get the generator technician out the very same day, and they confirmed exactly what we had thought. There was some type of fire of an unknown cause, whether it was electrical or caused by a defect of the unit. It's to be determined at this point based on the amount of damage that was sustained on the unit. Upon getting that information, I was able to, and I'd already had a few calls out for a temporary generator rental. We had that installed that evening it was connected by a private electrician as required by the generator rental company. And we've had 2 inspections so far on the unit. The first one that was done the day after the incident, and the second one that was done just this past Monday, August 10th, to basically make sure we're getting the same information from both companies. And if it goes over the magic number that requires 3 quotes, we're more than halfway there for repair or replacement. I'm still waiting on the extra quote to come back, or the second quote, if you will. And we have also reached out to the town insurance to see if it is something that's covered under our general policy. They will be scheduling an adjuster to come out. They've recommended it is best if we have a repair or replacement quote in hand when the adjuster comes out. That way they can check off their boxes, make sure everything that's noted as damage is something that they can also put into their report, and they'll make the final determination if it is something that was caused and covered by our policy, and move forward from there.
How old? Do you know how old that generator was, Frank?
That generator is a 100 kW generator, and it's a 2005 unit.
Perfect, right?
Not extremely old.
15 years.
Not brand new by any means. We've had
between.
Yeah.
We'd hope for a little more service life, but it's
right.
It's not like you probably can't repair that. I bet the fire really.
That's the question that comes up, and I've even spoken to a few of the generator techs on site and on the phone, and their concern is that you have to do a minimum amount of repair to get the unit to fire before you can even perform testing on it. And if you go and spend the money to replace the wiring harness and do the repairs, that there's still the potential that the genset itself could have suffered some damage, and you won't know until you actually get to fire it up.
Right.
So there's a bit of uncertainty there that you'll see. I'm sure when the quotes come in,
right,
there'll be the as unit repair price, one after another. It's and depending on what that price comes back as, I think we as a group can make a decision if it's worth making the attempt to repair it.
Yep.
Or if it's just a better route to go and just look for the replacement.
Yep. Good money after bad comes to mind.
Right.
Set it free on Unibid and see it.
Right. I mean, if it comes back and both quotes come back that it looks like it'd be rather simple and inexpensive to replace the harnesses, I would say it might be worth taking the gamble.
Yep.
There's a lot of fail-safes that are on those newer units.
All right.
With fuses and fusible links that I would have to guess that the unit did not suffer substantial damage, but I'm going to go on their recommendation alone.
Right.
It's definitely not my area of expertise, even though I've worked on different units in the past.
Right.
But definitely not something to mess around with either. We definitely need that.
No, the problem with the generator, and I guess the problem with anything, is you need it when you need it, and the generator you seem to need at the worst possible time, so
Exactly.
I
Yep.
really prefer those be at the highest level of maintenance, and certainly if it can be repaired, that's great. But if not, it's, I guess we'll wait for the quotes and see what the assessment comes.
Exactly. So I'm hoping to hear something back. We had some issues with the computer system here all week long. There was something that they were working on with the server here and at Town Hall, so just slowly getting back through a couple hundred emails that the system just came back up this afternoon. So it could be in there. I didn't see it skimming through because it was something I was definitely hoping I would see. But if I don't hear from them tomorrow or Monday, there'll be some phone calls generated to see if we can expedite that.
And how long do we have the temporary generator on?
As long as we need it.
Okay, so it's a month-to-month unit?
They didn't do a month-to-month. It wasn't available. They were on a week-to-week because when I called, they were already in the process of trailering units to get down south.
Yeah.
Because it happened, of course, the week before the storm was due to come up here. And, knock on wood, we didn't sustain much damage up here. There was some power outages in town, and the generator did fire and work using the temporary generator that's in place, so it was a necessary item to have.
Good. And what's the replacement one? I know the mounted one was 100 kilowatts. What's this one?
The one that's in place is 100 kW also. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, we went, item for item.
Yep.
Even though we have a smaller pump and motor in that well station now.
Right.
Without doing any type of load test or additional information, it was easy just to swap out what was there. If we do have to go for a replacement generator, I think it'd probably be best to spend a little money, have the electrician come in and load test the building and see if we could get away with a smaller KW.
All right. And what's the fuel? Is it propane?
It's propane powered. So the only benefit to going a little bit smaller would obviously be the fuel consumption over a long period of time.
Yeah.
We might be able to step down to an 80 or an 85 kW.
Now, why use a bazooka when a slingshot will do?
Exactly. So in the past we didn't have options, but with the new lower head pumps that are in there now, they use less electricity. There's different drives that are in there with the upgrade that happened at the treatment plant. So the potential is there. We could actually step down in size.
And there's nothing else that could be run from that remote generator. It's not like you can wire up other stuff in the future. It just does that.
It just does that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Good.
Yeah. So it's a wait and see right now, but we are covered and fully operational with the temporary in place.
Well, let's see. This was Murphy showing up after we dodged the bullet, as you and I were both worrying on the other generator issue or the prior generator issue.
Exactly right.
But I'll take it now rather than then.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything that we can dodge, I'm all for it. Especially when it comes to emergencies, and especially in the conditions that we are now with the drought and the excessive use that we've seen with people being home, unfortunately, due to the COVID and just the normal time of year where it is our peak system demand. Actually, touching on that, jump over to automatic irrigation systems in town. Just want to remind people that any automatic type sprinkler is not allowed to be connected into the municipal water. This does include the sprinklers that are attached to the end of the garden hose. Many people don't put that together with the article as far as the rules and regulations. They feel it's not very clear. So we've educated a few more people in the past couple months. We have not had to find anybody, thankfully. That's not what we're here to do. We want to make sure the people are aware of what's going on, why we're out there enforcing it. And we're out there at different times of the day, night, whenever.
Right.
We're out there. We're always so-called policing the area. For the most part, there have been only one or two people that have kind of pushed back against us. We have yet to find those people, but it could come. It's very close, unfortunately, in a couple of situations. And
people with irrigation systems, and if they're on a well, are they permitted to the Board of Health?
Irrigation systems and private wells are permitted only through Board of Health here in town. I believe if it's a potable well, there's a minimum requirement to have that tested at least once a year. But again, it's not something that our department enforces. All those rules and regulations are through the Board of Health in town.
They're not required to like put a sign out so we know, or?
We have asked that they register their wells. We have a list of registered wells, and we have a personal made list of wells that we find that are not actually registered with the town, but we would rather have that list and know that we're not going to bang on somebody's door at 2 or 3 in the morning because it's going. We do reach out to a few of those people and recommend that they register their wells and at least put some type of sign in their lawn to avoid, obviously, the nuisance banging on the door, or somebody shutting off their water to the house to verify they're on a private well or if it's on municipal water, which we've had to do in a couple cases, knock on wood, not this year. But for the most part, I think everybody understands and have given up on their lawns just like I have. And, money well spent other places instead of putting it on the brown grass. We'll jump across to water vending machine.
Something new.
It's,
We'll call it old business.
Old business, yeah. Just a quick update on that. I believe at one of the past meetings, not with this board, there was a mention that the machine will remain in place for a period of 4 more months. This is 100% true. The Blue Drop Company and the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners came to an agreement that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners decided to be financially responsible. They wanted the machine to be removed while it was off and out of service to save the ratepayers money. We spoke with Brendan at Blue Drop. He actually requested if it was at all possible to leave the machine in place. He did not have technicians available to readily come out and dismantle the unit and remove the unit within the time period that we had requested. His agreement was that if he was able to leave the machine in place for the 4 months while the machine is not in use, we would not be charged a rental fee or the maintenance fee for that time. If we decided to reactivate the machine within that 4-month time, he would just like a little bit of a lead time so he can get his technicians out, clean the machine, get it running through the paces and go from there. Even though he's fully aware that 4 months, 6 months, there is no time limit on when this may or may not go back online. The Board of Health in town has handled a few calls on the unit and with many questions as far as why they shut the unit down. To be clear, the Board of Health in town has no jurisdiction over this machine. The machine is a rental unit and falls under the rules of the Mass DEP, who fully support the shutdown of this unit, with the understanding it was done in an abundance of caution. And going one step further, the state of Massachusetts has issued similar wording that, and I will quote here from one of the emails from the state, that while I'm not sure what phase it would be allowed to reopen, it is not allowed at this time. So we are under state mandate, as well as supported by the Mass DEP, that the machine remains off until such time it can be determined safe, whether it's in a phase, whether it's something from the state Board of Health, but unfortunately it is not a local decision, and they have enough to deal with going on with COVID and everything going on, so they've requested that any other calls either be directed to the Water Department or the state, and not to the Board of Health about the rental machine.
Right, that was just a good confirmation from the state on a tough decision, because a lot of people do use the water vending machine, but logically, from my own perspective, I don't see how this week or even next week we could go ahead and turn that thing on. So we'll monitor it as our time progresses, and we'll look at it every couple of weeks as we meet and see what happens in the rest of the state, and furthermore for the rest of the country. Like you said, it's just an abundance of caution, and we're just trying to move forward and not get anybody sick. What's next?
I got one more final thing here. I'm going to touch base about the Winnicott sewer system. This is a system that was installed in our town between, I believe it was 2000 and 2002. We perform annual maintenance on all of our force mains and gravity mains by pumping out any groundwater that you find in some of the sewer manholes, which we have not found much. As with the drought, everything is drained down. So we still perform maintenance on what's called an air release valve or a dual portion valve in the sealed forced sewer. Down in the section on Winnicott, there are actually two critical areas. There's one right before the pump station on Bay Road, and there's another one around the corner on King Philip. That is at a high spot. That's a dual functioning valve. And while we were performing some maintenance down there, which is basically we use our pressure jetter to hook up to different orifices on the yeah, right, easy for me to say, on the functioning valves, flush out any debris that may accumulate in there that may slow the operation of the valve. We found that unfortunately, which is common, items that were used are made of steel, and they are rapidly deteriorating because of the corrosive nature of the environment, both internally and externally. For the most part, these items are not on the water, but there is a tide change there with the elevation of the water table.
That's what I was going to throw out there. The problem is if they were totally immersed, it would be less.
Yes.
But with the immersion and rinsing and then the air and the corrosion,
right,
it's a horrible environment.
It is a very...
See, right at that interface.
Yes, it is an extreme environment. Unfortunately, most of that is at the threaded part. The sewer system itself, the sewer main, is PVC.
Sure.
Any parts or pieces
that's
right.
Yep.
So anytime there's anything put on there, a saddle, an air release, or anything like that, it was cost effective to use steel. Granted, it's been in there, 18, going on 19 years, and we've got a decent life out of it. We're in the process now of looking at upgrades to go to stainless couplings, stainless ball valve, stainless air release valve, and dual proportion valve on the other side.
Yep.
Something that will far outlive me, and hopefully many others from now.
Is there a grade difference in stainless, or is it all just 304 or some, can you get a really good stainless, or is there a...
I did not look into it much further than just asking for the prices on the stainless,
Yep.
which are about 3 times higher than the steel replacement would
Right.
be. I have to assume you're going to get, 2 to 3 times the life expectancy out of that.
Yep.
And without showing a picture of what these look like, you have a 3 or 4 inch sewer main, which is PVC. Now you have this large steel structure that is basically standing upright on it. So the weak point is the lowest part, the threads, where you have the adapters going into these air release valves. Again, over time, with the changes in the table and the corrosion, threads become the weakest link. Even opening the manhole and trying to get in to pump any water out, they could easily be touched and knocked over. Now your system doesn't function.
Yep.
You would have to actually have somebody sit there and manually operate an air release valve to get this thing to work. And with the importance of those systems, it's to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yep. And is the I don't know if bronze or some other composite is an option or less money. I don't know. I'm not trying to go for the less money. I'm just looking at cost effective. How about that? So we want something that's nice and 50 years or something. And just, get the breakdown. They'll have it.
I had spoken with our lead sewer technician about other fixture types, whether going to brass, maybe an option for the reducer for the ball valve before it transitions over. And the only concern I would have, and this is only because I know of it on the water side, would be dissimilar metal corrosion.
Right.
If there is a substance we can use, like an Everseas or a Teflon, to keep the materials separate, it definitely is going to be an option we're looking at to obviously save some money, but we want the best product. If we're going to do anything, we want to do it the right way.
And the check valves and whatnot are probably as much labor and man hours to change as the piece itself, so I guess the longer duration item would be better because you're not going to put it in again for 50 years.
That is the guess.
So we'll put the money into the particle and not into the piece and not really change it that often, I guess is the goal.
Right. Obviously, we still do our annual maintenance on them, and they would still be inspected on a regular basis, but there'd be a lot less concern, and our technician would sleep a little better at night knowing, he's a little concerned now after seeing the condition
It was good till you didn't see it, Frank.
It was good until you started thinking about it again, and now that we've started doing a little bit of work with a couple of people together, we've gone and hit a few of these areas that,
All right.
it's time, and there's going to be other ones that we're going to investigate as we move along. We're going to just do one at a time. We don't want to start opening up a can of worms. Things have been working correctly. The next step, I believe, after the winter cunnet we'll be continuing to do maintenance on the Knollwood section. Some of that goes through portions of land in Mansfield and comes back around.
Right.
So there are actually some easements out there that we may actually have to do some land clearing to get to. Another thing that seems to have been overlooked for quite a few years, and those little trees aren't very little anymore. So we'll be looking into that in the near future. If it's something we can handle in-house, we definitely will. If it requires bringing in some larger equipment, we'll look at prices on that as well.
Yep, I know and you're probably familiar with the highways, is it a trackless or a Holden? They have a really nice arm-mounted flail mower that I've seen running around lately, and I know Keith's pretty generous with his pieces and his time. If they have the time, maybe it would be good to just give him a chat and say if they have the manpower or whatever, it would be good for all of us, and maybe we could work something back on a snowstorm this winter or whatever. I don't know how you guys work that out, but I know there is one in the mix.
There is one. The highway department does own. It does require a specialty license, which a few of their guys do have.
Yep. Well, I actually have the tool envy. I would love one of those things. It's even AC.
It is
the
AC.
little cube of tree destruction that has air conditioning.
You are correct. It is quite the machine.
It's awesome.
It is.
And is there a snow blower for that? Do you know if he has that thing?
There are a multitude of different attachments down at the highway garage.
Yep.
There was a snowblower attachment I've seen used when we actually had a winter.
Right.
But there's a lot that can go on that multi-purpose
So
unit.
I think that would be for what you're talking about. I know the area, and it wouldn't take that thing, but half a day or whatever with the right operator.
Right.
But however, you guys, if you could just investigate that a little while we're waiting to see, what upgrades and what repairs to the valves are happening, that would be cool.
Yeah, we're going to spend some time out there in the easement, so residents will see us in areas that they probably never seen us before, which in 15, 20 years, you may forget that there's an easement on your property. We will be out there and walking around with vests on. You'll see the trucks, and you can feel free to approach us. We'll keep our distance and explain why we're out there. It will be just checking to find the boundaries within our easements, and we'll determine at that time if it's something that can be handled in-house, either with the assistance of highway, or if we actually have to look at contracting a firm to come in and open up and maintain these easements. It's amazing how quickly they get overgrown when you forget about them for a little while.
Yep.
So that's something, it's coming down. At some point we'll be there.
Good work. Stay on that.
I think it's about 6 o'clock now.
Yeah. If I may, do we have anybody from Plain Street on the call?
Yep.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay, welcome. Just for the record, so our recording secretary can get your names and addresses. If you could, please state your names and addresses, and we'll go ahead into our conversation.
All right, my name is William Francis, 66 Plain Street.
Hi, William.
Matthew Rankin, 59 Plain.
Anthony Vargo, 60 Plain Street. John Shimoy, 63 Plain Street.
Sean McDonald, 62 Plain Street.
John Shipper, 3 Plain Street.
Rhonda Shippers, 53 Plain Street.
And this is Robert, 61 Plain Street.
If you get it on,
Okay. All right, well, welcome, everyone. Please proceed to your presentation.
All right, well, I'll go first, William Francis, There seems to be, I think there's an echo on the line. So I
We
hope
can hear you loud and clear if that matters.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much for taking the time to hear us. First of all, and I just wanted to say that I'm here with my neighbors, and we all wanted to speak to the fact that the sewer hookup, we find that it's unfair that many houses that this line runs in front of, they do not have to hook up. And reading the town law, this connection to sewers is all with municipal funding. I guess it's paragraph 163-8. And the law states that if there's a sewer laid in front of your home, then you have to tie into it. Now, if you could, I'm hoping that after these conversations that we have, the water department will see that we present a good case. And that we would like to hopefully be aligned with the rest of the town when it comes to financing, special financing. Now, I certainly hand it over to the next person, and they can also talk to you about their concerns.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, Johnson, and 3 Plain Street.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Like I say, my concern was the town bylaw said if sewer line runs in front of the home, you have to tie in within 5 years.
I understand that. And
I understand that
the 10
residents here are on
gravity feed
rather than high pressure.
I was told that they
bypassed all the houses, including condos on time, and cleaning up the LG
due to the fact
due to the fact it was high pressure.
I spoke to
I
an
spoke to an engineer
engineer
well-versed in sewer.
He said that
He said that those houses can tie in,
they would have to
they would
install
have to install pumps,
the pressure would be
greater,
greater, the pressure in
and
the
the
pipe.
pressure in the pipe.
So what I was
So
saying,
what I was just saying that
I don't know how
the lines you run down the street, you know, 10 people are affected.
I would like the
I
opportunity.
I didn't know who
decided
decided
the water
that it was the water commission,
who picked the 10 people that
the
have
10
to
people that have to tie in,
or
or who was responsible for that.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, we can hear everybody and discuss it among ourselves tonight, but I think this may be bigger than we're going to reach a decision right here. But what I'll answer that specific question on the homes that are getting the letter to tie in. It's really a physical thing at this point. The design actually drives who gets the gravity and who gets the pressure, and at a certain point it was more feasible to do a pressure line, and then at a certain point the engineers decided that again it was more cost effective to run over to gravity before it entered the interceptor or vice versa. I haven't looked at the plan in some time, but that being said, the houses that are able to hook up by gravity, it's really just it's an access fee and then just a connection with a contractor in the front yard, decommission the back of the septic system, and you're on. And
Right.
I know
But I'm being told it's at the tune of $25,000 to $30,000.
And I have no
And I have no problem with
It's
that.
great.
I think it's needed.
But I'm
told that the entire line is activated. I don't think the 10 people should be singled out.
Like I say,
I know it from Wheaton. Wheaton needed
a
a water treatment plant,
and
they would have paid a fraction of what it would have cost to get it on their own. I know it's a combination between the town and
And it doesn't seem to be a percent of us to hook up. I think you guys should consider that if our septic fails, then we will not issue the septic permit, and we have to come to sewer, or if the sewer line is fully activated, and everybody's up to it, then we hook in. But I think those two things would be reasonable, and I know when we sell our home, we have to hook up state law.
John, if I may,
Have you finished talking? Because I wasn't finished talking when you jumped in. I just want to make sure you're done so I don't step on you.
Yep, no problem. Sorry about that.
Right. Who's next?
Did you want to say something?
yeah, do you mind if I ask a question, Luke?
Go ahead, Frank.
John, do you have the name, or if you don't want to give it out publicly, could you call me at the office and let me know who the engineer was that you spoke with? I'd like to speak to them about connections to the pressure main. You there, John?
Yep, let's get back on.
All right, sorry, John. I just wanted to know if you had the name of the engineering firm or whoever it was that you spoke to about the, an E1 type pump overpowering the pressure system. If you didn't want to give that out tonight, you could call the office and give it to me if you wanted.
Yeah, like you say, I don't want to name the firm, but my curiosity was if the line is in front of the house and if I was told by the engineer that they could hook up as long as they had a pump, which the pump was greater pressure than the line outside.
Okay, the reason I asked that is we've had multiple conversations with different firms basically asking.
We got some music in the background.
Music in the background. I guess the phone still works when you're on conference. Sorry about that, guys. So we've had mutual calls to different engineers and have been told that having an E1 type or pump system fighting the municipal pumps that is going to cause extreme premature wear on that pump. If it's called for at the time that the sewer pump station is discharging and the force main is full, the homeowner's pump will not be able to overcome the municipal pump and will basically just sit there spinning. And those pumps have wear items on them. They have an impeller. And we've actually seen a few of these incidents happen when there's been power outages down in the King Philip area where the station has been offline and everybody comes back on at once. The people with the worn pump will start, basically overheating the pump because they do not have the most powerful pump in the system. That is the best of my information that's been given as far as why a smaller homeowner-style pump would not be able to be tied into the municipal sewer. We do have Steve Peterson here from the sewer. We could pick his brain with a few questions if he has any more to add to that. If you have a minute, Steve. Yeah, please.
Yep, Steve Peterson from Weston and Sampson.
So I guess I could lend some information as far as the design of the system that's out there. So the pump station that's at Wheaton College is what we're talking about here in the force main there. So there's several different kinds of sewer. There's gravity sewer, there's a force main sewer from a pump station, and then there's pressure sewers that are installed to accept pumps from individual homes, residential type grinder pumps. So the system we have out here is a pump system at Wheaton. I forget what the horsepower on those pumps are, but I think they're like, 75 horsepower pumps. Any pump that would try and pump into that system would have to have significant horsepower in order to be able to get into the system, and would have impacts both ways. The force main from its large pump station is not designed to take flow from other homes along the way. It's a dedicated force main from point A to point B. All the head losses are calculated based on that. Homes that tie in with individual grinder pumps tie into what we call low pressure sewers that don't have a main pump station on them, but are dedicated to a series of 1 and 2 horsepower pumps that can all flow into a common main. So the system out here was designed to pump to the interceptor. We also looked into providing sewer service to the North School It was determined that we could run gravity sewer from the interceptor up the hill to the North School, and then we left the gravity sewer there, and that's where the force main from Wheaton discharges. So the homes that are fronted by the force main that comes off of Fillmore Drive onto Pine Street and then Plain Street are not able to connect to that force main. It's not designed or set up for homes to connect to it. The gravity sewer, obviously, that was extended up from the interceptor, anyone that's fronted by that can connect to it. So that's the design, and that's the system that's out there. So I guess that's why only the homes between the interceptor sewer down at the railroad bed and up to and including the North School are able to tie into the system that was extended. That's the system that's in place.
Thank you, Steve. So,
Thank you, Steve.
in summation, what he's saying is there's a pump. Would you say it's approximately 75 horsepower?
I want to be careful what I quote.
No,
50, 60,
Yeah, it's not 10. And what you've got is 1 and 2 horsepower pumps fighting it.
if you tried to do that.
Right. So if the people on the pressure side of the line were to connect, and again, the system wasn't designed for that, and it would either cause flow to go back into the residences as the check valve would be open in the lower horsepower pumps, or wear out the impeller prematurely, so it's not, the pressure side at this point cannot connect. That's why you folks feel singled out, but you are on the only side that has access, and I will remind people, it's not something you're gonna like, but you don't have to do a septic system in 10 years. Once you get on the sewer, it will be permanent and trouble-free for the duration. And I will also say that we really appreciate the foresight that Wheaton showed by funding the majority of that lift station, which is the centerpiece and the low point of our entire sewer system, which allows us to proceed on the project on 123, which may or may not be popular, but it is really good for the community. It helps our groundwater quality, and the treatment plant that the sewer is pumped to is going through, or has gone through, a significant amount of upgrades to take a lot of the nitrogen out of the water that gets reinduced to the soil, so it's an environmental.
Right.
If
I just don't
I could finish,
all the time.
ladies and gentlemen, this is a meeting, and I happen to be the chairman, so I'd like just a minute to speak, if I may. I know we're on Zoom and it's tough to interrupt. I can't see people's hands, but I'm just kind of going over the big picture, and I know it hurts. I understand that, but we have to look at the community as a whole and understand that we have responsibilities, and this just happens to be one of them. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I just have one thing to say. If it was a community project, they should not bypass every single resident. Thank you. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, so, next, 59 Plain Street, thanks for a couple of questions on what you guys just mentioned. Sounds to the two different ways to rely. I'm no expert, but a lot of calls wonder why it was not designed in the first place where every house in the line is not up. I'm sure it would have presented some additional challenges, maybe cost, but, for the whole community, it sounds a little bit more beneficial. And also, we're all extremely grateful for everything he does for us. The fact that this is private money, basically becomes something type of funding is just done. You do say we'll have this running when everything gets done, but there is a very large cost attached in the first place. I myself have a child. So just remember that not always easy to stand in your fingers.
Thank you for that question. I think what they're saying, Steve, is why was the design not modified to include all the residences?
Yeah, I mean, the extension was part of the town's comprehensive wastewater management plan, where studies were done in terms of which areas of the town were the highest needs areas for sewer. And that area of Pine Street was not on the identified needs areas, Pine and Plain. The sewer that was put in down the hill to the interceptor was to pick up the North School.
Right.
And it's,
Gotcha.
that's why. But, yeah, I mean, not nearly every home in town is going to ultimately be connected to sewer. It's a very small percentage ultimately that will be connected to the sewer, but it's all consolidated. The next areas of extension are consolidated around the reservoir and Route 123. And that's why the pump station at Wheaton was critical, because all of that flow will ultimately be collected at that pump station and pumped to the system. So that's kind of the basis for how they decided where to go and who to provide sewer to and who not. There's a document, DEP approved document in place on who the sewer department is going to provide sewer to.
Thank you. The other thing that I have to remind folks of is the LG North School. In the not too distant past, because my girls both went there, at times of high groundwater, had what I'll politely refer to as a gray water pond, and they would caution tape off the area that the septic system backed up into, so the kids didn't go out and play in it. So we as a commission kind of looked at the overall path and selected the path along Plain Street as the most beneficial to the town as a whole, and the direction from the lift station at Wheaton was not significantly different to go down through 123 or Plain Street to the interceptor, which inevitably flows into that treatment plant, which is right next to the Taunton Industrial Park, so it was kind of going in the right direction anyway. And some of these are just some of the bigger level decisions that we choose, and it makes engineering sense to us. And again, there's a lot of background that you folks don't have, and I apologize for that. But what we'll do is we'll review it, in my opinion, to the next meeting, and see what options we have, or what could possibly be done. If you guys have anything else to add, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, this is Anthony Berger, 60 Plain Street. This is very costly. I'm a single family with obviously we have those. I don't understand why the permit fee is so expensive for this.
Was that the
permit fee is half the cost?
I believe the question is, why is the permit fee so expensive for the connection? Is that correct?
I think it's the capital charge, the tie-in fee. If you have a 3-bedroom home, it's a certain fee. If you have a 4-bedroom home, is that the fee you're talking about?
I'm not sure. I was told that the permit fee is a boat. That cost is tying in. What's involved in the permit fee?
I guess I have to ask for a more detailed explanation, because the permit fee is really not that expensive. The tie-in fee can be expensive. It's, like I said, it's different numbers, but if you could get in touch with the folks who said the permit fee or whatever is the thing, I can answer the questions, but I don't, off the top of my head, understand what you mean. If the permit fee is only is it $250? It's not a lot of money. That's the capital charge. Okay, so a 3-bedroom home I think is like 11 something, and a 4-bedroom home is like 15 something. And those numbers are based on the cost of the last project. So it basically gets everybody up to an even speed on the length of pipe that is in the ground to connect to the treatment plant. So the person who ties in the last person at 2020, in theory, pays the same in proportion as the person who hooked on first in I don't know when they went in, 2008 or 2006. But it's an equalizer fee, so everybody has the same cost basis to tie in. So the last person contributes as much to the infrastructure in the ground as the first person. So that's a capital charge. It assesses a certain value to the pipe in the ground that you'll be using for your sewerage.
Okay, can you
This is Robert Ferraro, I'm on 61 Plain Street. And I guess, obviously, the cost is a real concern to all of us. We don't all have a lot of money to pay for this. I think we're a little confused. I know that when I first called and asked how much that fee was going to be, I was told it was going to be like $11,500. That I had to pay all at one time. And I only have a two-bedroom house, and they said two beds, based on three and above. Now, I'm retired. I can't afford this. You know, when I came from the town of Walpole, and we went through the same sort of thing, they allowed us to pay for that through our tax. You guys wanted all one large sum up front. So we're just a little bit of a break.
Right. No, I understand the question. Each municipality, and Walpole has an older sewer system than we do, so their cost structure is definitely different because they have way more users on probably a similar amount or only a little bit greater amount of pipe in the ground. And one of the reasons we're going to take till our next meeting to decide on this, I want to discuss if there are any options that from our side, whatever that is, municipal or sewer, water, or whatever we can look at. I wanted to hear your concerns and just see what options are available. I don't know that there will be any, but I need to understand what the big picture is and how to proceed.
Okay. Well, I guess obviously the big one is hooking up to the system. Number one. I think we realize that something that has to happen because of the bylaw. But we just want a little consideration as to when and how much and what kind of a can it be added to our tax? Can you give us a low interest loan? These are the things I think I'm really concerned about, and so are the rest of us here.
No, I appreciate the question, and I will have an answer either if you want us to email each of you or you want to Zoom in for our next conference call. That whatever works for you, let us know, and we'll review it and have an answer.
Okay. Anybody else?
That was my question again. Rhonda 56 Main Street. That when you say you're looking into our options, considering financing? Because everyone has had to tie into this, has been given like low rate loans or paying off over a period of time, usually 20 years. And my understanding is people in the town got the same financing option. I'm not sure why we wouldn't.
Again, each project has its own dynamics, and it's not something that's easily understandable. But some folks or some projects assess betterments to each property along the way. It's a whole list of factors depending on location, funding, and how the project is actually achieved. But I think what you're talking about are Board of Health septic loans that may be available. I don't know how those would apply to this, but again, I can only say I'm going to talk to a couple of people and see what exactly our options are, and if it's the funding, and I guess it's always the funding, of course, if that's the main concern. I can say in not too distant past, there was only a 2-year allowance until you connected, so you had some time. But, I guess it's never enough time, but let me go ahead and see what the powers that be have for, solutions, and we'll talk about this again at our next meeting. Or if you guys want an email, please just shoot me an email right now, and we'll get an email out, or whatever you prefer.
Well, when is your next meeting?
If now you're gonna make me think and add and subtract. This is August 13th, so we should have had it on the 11th. So 14 days. The 11th is everybody the 25th.
Correct.
Thank you. So we're gonna convene again on August 25th. All things considering, and the COVID not getting any worse, and no flat tires, no issues. But yeah, we'll talk on the 25th.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all for zooming in, and we'll
Guys, can I help? This is Sean from Plain Street. I just
Go ahead.
got one last question.
Yep.
If there's only a handful of us that was on the hook for compensation, why couldn't they pay for us to get tied in if it's such a response to the people as part of the job?
Yep. You're paying the exact same as anybody else in the whole system that would tie in. There are people who don't have access, and they can't tie in. It's not a per unit on that project. It's a per unit of the last project, which comes up with that value per bedroom. So if somebody were to tie in, let's say on Lake Wanacunnet, who never tied in, they pay the same rate today that you would. You're basically buying the pipe from your house. In theory, you're basically paying for your share of the pipe from your house to the treatment facility, just like anybody else would, and we had to have a common cost basis. And it's not, I don't expect you to get it in one explanation. It's complicated, but that's the way in our system we've done it, because we do have a lot of pipe and we don't have a lot of customers.
No, I understand. I'm not negative. The fact that we didn't have to sit on this frustrating for someone who's been out for 43 years. We've seen it grow.
I'm not sure you're clear on that. I don't have the exact number, but Steve, how much did Wheaton throw in?
Oh, they paid it.
Several $1 million.
Yeah, they paid for the pump station, for the most part, on their property.
Right. What?
On the infrastructure on Wheaton.
Right. So it's not a gift to Wheaton. Wheaton actually was very symbiotic with our project in that they gave us easements and perpetual use of their property to have a pump station, which they paid for and they built. And I know that they didn't have to put in a new treatment plant, but we don't want the treated water going into that aquifer right there. We want the treated water at the community treatment plant for Foxborough, Norton, and Mansfield, which is one of few in the state. And again, I understand this is a big problem and a big expense for you guys, but in a big macro environmental sense of our communities, from Foxborough all the way through the treatment plant in Norton at the edge of Taunton, this is a very big thing for our zone, and Wheaton was a huge contributor, and we have to understand that we appreciate that access and that use. And now the rest of our flow that comes from the sewer project on 123 and beyond will all go through our lift station in Wheaton's campus. And I know it doesn't make the fact that you folks have to pay and tie in any easier, but it's something we're doing for the bigger picture, and I just have to reiterate that. And other than that, I don't have anything until we talk about how to solve your problem.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
John Shipper, 53 Plain Street. If Wheaton had to fix their septic system, how much would it cost them?
Yeah, it's it's a treatment plant. They had a treatment plant that, was way out of service. As far as that goes, I don't know, but I know without their funding and participating in this project, we wouldn't have the sewers we have. So it's kind of, like I said, it's very symbiotic, and I don't know,
Okay. Well, I don't know the number. If I change my septic system, it'd be $20,000 to $25,000 to say. What would it cost them if they've had to replace their septic system?
right, it's a treatment plant that they would have had to have like they had prior, which was failing, and blowing raw sewerage into the tributaries to the local rivers. So again, it was beneficial to us all to include them in the wastewater management of our community at considerable expense to them.
Yes, I understand. The price that they paid, they put to it the town, they probably saved themselves $10 million.
So there was an analysis done, they wouldn't have, they knew how much it was gonna cost, sorry.
Steve Peterson, who worked on that project for Weston and Sampson and as a consulting engineer for our department.
There was an extended discussion and negotiation before that ever came to pass that Wheaton agreed to tie into the sewer. So they knew how much it was going to cost to build the plant. We all looked at it, and they were willing to put up, you know, the cost of what it would have cost them for the plant, and then a little bit more to not have to deal with the plant going down the road. So I don't have the exact number.
Very little.
What's that?
I don't think they paid enough.
Oh. Okay.
Is there anybody else?
Thank you.
Well, yeah, Chairman, we'll be back to Plain Street. I just wanted to say that you've been talking about the macro picture, the big picture, and sharing that all of us are going to be so impacted by this, and cause a lot of hardship. So the only thing I could do is that if you really set up a big picture, why wasn't everyone supported behind it? So we can follow the law, and if it's the question of the house, then you have to tie in the sewer system.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and repeat myself one time, but what we discussed earlier, there's a high horsepower pump at the lift station to get the pressure line all the way from the low point of our system, which is at Wheaton College, all the way up the hill to an area that would receive gravity flow to the interceptor. And that pump is significantly bigger and more expensive and requires more maintenance than the residential units that folks along the way, from the first person outside Wheaton's driveway all the way to just before the manhole where it becomes gravity, would have to pay. So at a design engineering level, you look at the benefit and the return and say the lift station that is there will pump this far with this much horsepower and this much head pressure. And that's what the engineering allows, and that pump is so powerful, it doesn't allow the low pressure pump. Some systems are low pressure, but it's a whole different design, and that wasn't done on that project.
So then I think that the design itself is a problem, and that is considered wrong, to make sure that everyone can tie in.
Well,
I mean, people do this in cities. They don't have 70 cities in their sewer system.
right. The cities are much older and have a lot more flow and a lot more users. Pretty much the entire city is flowed, and again, part of the decision and the design was to pick up the LG North School, which had an ongoing sewer problem, and believe it or not, one day the systems you have would fail, and that all just becomes moot because you'll be on sewer, and that problem is all summed up in a monthly payment, rather than the $25,000 somebody just spoke of.
I'm sorry, monthly payment?
What's that?
I thought we didn't have monthly payments.
No, I mean, the use fee for the sewer is just a fee on your water bill. it becomes a component of the water bill.
Right, and that's 3 times what the water bill would be. Well, I guess we summed it all up. I hope you done and consider everything that we said, and come to a favorable conclusion on our behalf, and just align us with the rest of the town when it comes to the funding. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So our marching orders for that would be to speak with Chris Zanner about Board of Health low-interest loans for septic upgrades and if they apply to sewer tie-ins. And I know we've talked about this for years, and I'm just not sure how each one is applied, but that would be a starting point, and we'll take it from there. I think I thought it would go a little more quickly, but let's go with Wesley and Sampson's sewer project update.
All right. Actually, I'll start with the water.
I'm gonna go with the water system update. I know
Just
you.
because it's right in front of me, and I don't want to have to.
No, don't be flipping things.
I've been trying to understand it and read it, so let's get it while it's fresh in my mind. And Frank can help me. So Tara couldn't be here tonight, but she did send an email with her update. So I'll read right from what she wrote. So in terms of the water treatment plant, the recycle tank epoxy coating prep work started this week, Tuesday, and the final coating installation was completed today. Fans and lighting will be removed tomorrow. They got to wait at least 12 hours before they can walk on the coating. Curing is a minimum of 72 hours, so the contractor will be back on site Wednesday morning to work with operators on filling the tank.
Excellent.
An update on that. National Grid work order is being processed to ensure an electrical line crew is on site for the final electrical work at well 5. The electrical subcontractor is likely a few weeks out until National Grid, electrical inspector, and equipment is delivered scheduled. So from talking with the town, the timing is working out well as we're in peak summer heat, and they'll need to complete routine water quality samples in the next few weeks, so keeping the station online throughout August would be preferable anyway.
Excellent.
So Tara conducted a site visit and discussed the remaining punch list items with Derek. The list has been significantly reduced over the past several months, and an updated list will be provided to the contractor over the next few days. So they are chipping away at the punch list.
Right.
And continuing to move. So that's what I had on the water treatment plant from Tara. Frank, is there anything?
Yeah, that's about everything. We were able to get the permits over to Conservation Commission so they can be reviewed before their next meeting for the NOI for the replacement well 5. So those were dropped off just in the nick of time to make the 2-week deadline. So those should be reviewed, and I believe we will be on the agenda for their next meeting, whether it's virtual or what they're having to discuss requirements for that.
Excellent.
We did a walkthrough on the site and verified possible locations that would be required to be fenced off. Basically, obviously, the pitlesses in the Zone 1 should be fenced off. There is discussion, and she did draw up a map of potentially zoning and fencing off all of the Zone 1 area, which 400 foot around the well is your Zone 1 circumference. It does overlap slightly between 5 and 6, so we could eventually put a continual fence between the woods and all of the Zone 1 for both 5 and 6 and have that area completely secured, which is what DEP really highly recommends.
I'm liking that.
We have high foot traffic down there, including dogs. Definitely something we don't want able to gain close proximity.
Come on.
We don't want close proximity to the well casing with the puppies in the area. Yeah, block his ears. And regardless of what we do, it'll either be minimal fencing around the casing wells and the buildings or full circumference around them all.
Good. For a number of reasons, I like the full circumference around them all with a couple of cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have an update on those 5 and 6, which is some of that stuff. So as Frank said, the notice of intent application was delivered, so they're on the Concom meeting for August 24th at 6:30, a virtual meeting. We have our senior environmental scientist will attend the meeting and present the project to the Concom. Waiting on the last round of water quality samples from the lab to attach to the pumping test report to Mass DEP for the well 6 8-inch test well. Iron and manganese results received to date from the lab are consistent with the iron and manganese test results at the water treatment. Correct? So the one thing that was sent yesterday via email to Frank and the commissioners is a contract amendment number 2 for the next 2 phases of the project. Basically, the Concom hearing, the permitting phase was phase 2. We're under contract for that work. And then going forward, once they have the permits in place, phase 3 would be the production well drilling and pumping tests. And phase 4 would be engineering design of improvements, so including bid and award services. So basically do the production well and then do the design. And I guess we had submitted an amendment. Frank has copies of it. We just got it yesterday. If you want, we can talk a little bit about it. If you want to act on it today, or if you want to do it at the next meeting. I think until the Concom, until the permitting is done, we're not going to be moving into that phase, so it's not critical tonight, but it is what it is, I guess. So it's up to you guys if you want.
That's cool. I'd like to review this until the next meeting, and I think, like you said, we're good with you until then.
Yep.
If I could.
Yep, that's fine.
I'm leaning that way, I just.
Yep, no, that's fine. That's why I mentioned it to you. How do you want to handle it?
No, I think that's cool. I think we're just trying to get through as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, and we can answer any questions that you have. Obviously, Tara's available.
Yeah.
Answer any questions. Don't call me. Call Tara.
You're just the presenter.
Yep.
Very good.
I just want to say I have a copy of
That's it for the water?
So that is the water.
Yep.
Frank, we get everything covered there, right?
Yes.
Between your report and that. So on the sewer, I guess more of the same. We're back to battling the rock, which we knew we would be. They're using a combination of hammering and blasting where they are. I will say, I think I said it at the last meeting, now that they have the permit to blast and have different means and methods available to them, they're still feeling out the best process to get it done. They went in and pre-drilled all the way ahead for the remaining section, and we still are hopeful based on the pre-drilling that within the next few hundred feet we should start to come out of the real deep ledge, or shallow ledge, I guess is the way to put it. The ledge that's closest to the ground surface.
Which will make it easier to shoot.
Yeah, and eventually we'll be out of it, because where we skipped ahead to, there wasn't.
Right.
So everything we did from Honeydew up to the housing authority, we didn't encounter anything.
Right.
There were still signs of boulders and stuff in the borings. We didn't find anything.
Right.
So we found groundwater, which we knew there would be water, but it was pretty easily managed. So there is a point where they'll come through the ledge and be moving at a better pace. So it's been the end of this week will be 2 weeks with the ability to blast. I think they have started with low charges, and they're feeling it out. I think the driller knows what he's doing, but based on the way the drilling's gone, it's still requiring hammering. They still have to hammer every time they cross the services from either the gas or the water that come from the mains in the road over to the properties on that side of the road. And the driller, is not allowed to, will not drill, will not blast until they hammer out rock 10 feet in any direction from that utility. So, we run into that, we get a section where we can blast, we do it, and then we get to a crossing, and there's quite a few properties over there, so.
Good.
It's just a balancing act, and I think after, a couple of weeks, I think they've got a pretty good feel for how they're gonna proceed with it, and what they can, what the limits of the blasting are, and what makes sense, so.
Right. It's never gonna be an easy section of this project, but it's just moving along, and the blasting gives them an edge on some of the rock.
Yep. So that's basically where we're at. So there's one crew is there, finishing that main line, and I'll say it again. So they're at about they're between stations 600 and 700, with 0 being in the intersection of Mansfield and Taunton. And they got to get to just shy of 2,000. So, they've got about 1,300 feet left out of the 6,800 feet on the job.
Right.
And it's the toughest piece. So
Yep.
they'll get there. They definitely have made overall progress. So they have a second crew that is extending the building service connections now.
Right.
Between Honeydew and the Housing Authority, all the sewer that was put in up there. So they're chipping away at that stuff also.
Excellent.
I know there's been an email exchange with the schools. I haven't heard in terms of if and when school starts up, the fact that we're working during the day now, and concerns over the bus schedules.
Right.
So
You can only blast during the day, right?
Right. So we can't blast or hammer at night. And I don't, until we know what their final plan is, and Frank, I don't know if I know a lot of towns are making those decisions. I know my community and a lot I'm hearing are going with a hybrid approach where they split the school in half, basically.
Right. A couple days here, a couple days there.
Yeah, kids go 2 days, and half the school goes Tuesday, Wednesday, the other half goes Thursday, Friday, and they do remote the other days.
Yep.
And I don't know what they're doing about buses. I don't know how it's all going to work. But,
Right. No, that's a
But our, what
fluid
we've offered,
thing right now.
In an email change with the superintendent is, consideration of delaying the morning start. Ideally they'd have us work between 9 and 2, but what we would say is, get everybody there. We understand that, people being late for school is a problem for them.
Yep.
People, if the buses can't get there on time, they have mandated hours of education that they have to get done. But then if we can work through the afternoon commute, we can certainly work with them on when school gets out, and have the detail officers ready to clear those parking lots as quickly as they can at the end of school.
right.
Which would impact, teachers and students getting home, like it impacts everybody else on 123 coming home from work.
Right.
Basically. But it wouldn't affect the hours of school.
No, that's it's a coordination with the
Yeah. And we still have to deal with Mass DOT too on what they're gonna,
right.
once we know what we're up against. So it's a few weeks out at this point. The last I saw was mid-September,
Right.
potentially.
I think it's mid-September.
So not Labor Day, but
There'll be more progress before then. It's
we're making as much progress as
Yep.
we can, but we won't be done.
No.
We're gonna be, I say, we're gonna be in Route 123 into November,
Yep.
in some way or form. We're gonna be impacting it, so. And that's that. I know recently we've been having some issues with being able to fill police details. With the 2 crews, they're requesting 6 officers, 3 with each crew. They can get away with 2. I don't like to get involved in safety. We're not here to dictate how many you need, but
Right.
there have been several times now where they've asked for 6, they got 4, and they were able to do it.
Right.
You know, 2 officers at each site.
No, I had a conversation, with the deputy chief this afternoon.
Okay.
We're gonna try to put our heads together and come up with a solution. There are other projects, the folks who are doing is it SLK, the construction over the bridge for the, Leonard Street commercial stuff, Jeff O'Neill and those guys, they are requesting a couple officers. There's a bunch of other stuff happening, and they don't have a lot of manpower, but, they're gonna reach out and try to keep things going, and we also discussed the number of officers, and if the need arises, a couple of, patrol cars in the neighborhood can, pinch in if they could, but they're working with us, and we're trying to keep things moving for everybody. But what I don't want to happen is, Rocky O shut down and then back charge us.
And yep, that has not happened yet.
Okay,
My understanding is today and different information gets passed on from Rockio's crews within themselves.
no,
And
I
so
fully-
my understanding is they just this was the first time where they had to rethink. They didn't have enough officers to do what they wanted to do. So with only, they asked for 6, they only got 3. So I think they left 2 with the crew that's doing the blasting, and then they did some other miscellaneous work with the other crew instead of doing service connections where 1 officer would probably be insufficient to
Yep.
keep people moving around. I'm not exactly sure what they did.
No.
They didn't send anybody home.
no, that's
So
good.
basically, the email that came from them today,
But you
we're
know,
keeping an eye on this.
right, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a lost production,
Oh, yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But,
yes, we will.
we'll just have to, work with the powers that be to staff as best we can.
Yep. No, I appreciate that you had that conversation and.
Well, it's a critical thing. I mean, everybody, that area that SLK is working off the highway, anybody who's come off at that, 123 and 495 access, it's a turkey shoot. It's clear until you jump out into the road and then somebody's on you. Everybody's going 50 over the bridge.
No, I think it's clear that when we're asking for 6 officers ourselves, I mean, how many officers are there that aren't working?
I've been told there are a total of 35.
Okay, so
And,
there's enough.
and only some are available for details.
But-
Yes, Victoria, with your hand up in the back.
When I've gone past, I've seen 2 or 3 officers that work in each time unless there's like a crossroads like Greener.
Right.
That'd be the only reason. 'Cause otherwise, they're just standing on the other side.
Gotcha.
Well, I think the bigger
flex time-
issue is the contractor is finding out in the morning. So they show up,
Right.
and then they find out that we were only able to provide 3 of the 6 you requested.
Right.
Whereas if they could know
Yep.
the night before.
I tried to be, liaison between, the shift officers. I was supposed to get a call, it was said to be at 6:30, because they don't, post their details apparently until 5. They usually know by 6:30. Sometimes they have late requests, guys are on shifts in other towns, and so on and so forth, but, as you know me and love or hate me, I'm a talker, so I'm gonna try to talk my way through this and try to bring everybody on to at least knowing what to expect, and we can pull in whatever information to Rockio, so they have plenty of time to plan. And it's just a matter of, trying to work through it. We got a lot going on, and, we can't have crews stop. And there were obviously, some conflicts, some construction guys were trying to direct traffic, and that doesn't really go over so well. A lot of times they're at the point of impact where the officers have been taken to where the traffic is being stopped, so it's a little different. I know both sides. The officers have the responsibility of the safety control of the site, and the contractors are probably told to get things in as fast as they can, so there's a clash there, and we just have to manage that a little bit better.
Okay. And I know last week you submitted, a reimbursement request to the housing authority for their next payment.
Good?
Fine. So, that's it.
Super.
Okay.
I have one thing. I think, the Leonard Street project, from the O'Neills, there's been a, request for a temporary, occupancy for a tenant going in that facility, for us to waive is it a flow test for the sprinklers? Is that even possible? I mean, are there regs if it's a sprinkler building? Because what's happening is, it's not a restaurant, it's not, I guess I'm saying an assembly building, it's a warehouse. Is there a way we could, because we don't have the water to supply the test. They have all the stuff ready and they're all sitting there with their doorknobs in, their paint chips patched, and they got some pavement down. They have a bunch of contractors still running around, but they're ready. And apparently the only thing holding them up is the sprinkler load test or the flow test. And it's not prudent of us to just forward ahead and do a sprinkler test at this time of the year because we don't have the water.
Right.
So is there a way we could give them a 30-day? So this being the middle of August, do you anticipate by September, mid-September? We would have that. So is there a way we can get them a stay from the governor for 1 month, 30 days?
Well, the problem comes down not just to the water.
No.
We put everybody on hold with obviously the drought conditions that we're in. This is obviously the worst time of year for us as far as meeting demand. But the fire department ultimately signs off after that test is completed to make
Right.
sure that that building is.
No, I understand that.
Sound.
What I'm going towards is if the ball has to start somewhere, and as we have a beneficial interest in occupying buildings that are in our municipality for many reasons, if we were to say we can supply the water in 30 days and offer a temporary occupancy and put it to the next step of the fire department, and if the fire department says you can't do it until that test is passed, we can, in comfortable terms, say, I know the folks down there did a new main down Leonard Street, so they have, in the case of a fire, plenty of protection. We just don't know specifically what the flow is. So in our, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm just saying what I'm thinking, in our level best guess, we have water there for the sprinklers to be active. We just don't have the numbers yet. But if we could, at some way, reach an understanding that in 30 days, they'll do their flow test and proceed to the next step of a permanent sprinkler pass or whatever it is, and let the fire department look at it from their perspective. And I'm not recommending what they do at all. I'm just saying from our perspective, the water is on, it's been tested and chlorinated and in use, and if the sprinklers drop or the fire goes on and the head's open, it's going to put out the fire. We just don't know the numbers.
They can't use data from other flow tests they've done in the area?
The data that we've provided them at flow test when this project was in its infancy stages was to help them determine what size sprinkler pump would be feasible for that location. That way they don't obviously, suck the main dry, run out of water, burn up the pump, etc. Then the design based on that flow is what the fire department looks at. Also, if it's, just for the fire company, we have a couple here in town, they design their pump around the available water in the system, and the pump is sized accordingly to obviously sprinkle the building. I have no problems with going on flow calculations that were provided to them in the beginning, but ultimately the fire department is the one that would make the final determination if they feel comfortable with the hydrants in the street providing them with enough water to fight the building. Now it goes beyond that with insurance regulations.
Right. No, I get the far-reaching global ramifications of what they have to accomplish. All I'm saying is, I know the main's bigger than it was. It's in much better condition than it was. And if for some reason there is a fire, the sprinklers open and the fire gets water. I don't want to be prohibitive in our, operations. I'd rather say, it's connected, and at this point, we can't supply the water, so I don't wanna like force the water to be wasted, and, just that, if, I don't know, Steve, what you think, if, from your experience, if this is something you're not comfortable with, that's cool, but if you're okay with it, maybe we make a motion and we nudge the thing ahead to the fire department for them, or back to the developer and say, hey, we're gonna, base our choice today on prior results from your test in that area with worse pipes, and do it again in 30 days, or as soon as we have water available in our opinion. And we'll hold them to the letter of the law. I'm not gonna let them do it in, February of next year. I want it, as soon as reasonably, and I know there are probably people in the queue, but, I'll yield to your, judgment on that, Frank, but I think if we can get this substantial investment in these crazy COVID times, producing income for the developer and occupying a building that is currently vacant, it's a big thing for all of us. So let's, if I could have a motion to, do something like that.
Motion to, have the contractor, use prior, pumping data, flow test data to perform what they need to perform to get occupancy
Temporarily.
temporarily. And then we'll revisit this again and do it when our system can support it, a proper flow test.
Sounds good, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then they can take the results and, go to the next step. But I think, I've been through, Leonard Street numerous times, and it's a road, it's passable. The construction madness that it was for, it seemed like the longest time. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, it's not that, but it's along the whole section of, their commercial building. So, we'll see, and it's primarily warehouse space, there's not, huge occupancy and nobody's living there, it's a warehouse. If there's anything else, I'll ask for another motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that, and, we already set a date during the Plain Street addition contest, which I believe to be the 25th. Good. And, that'll do it for this evening. Thank you everybody from the, Zoom meeting, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
I knew it here, Wiggins. We get one more Wiggins. Good night, Peter. I just wanted to make sure you were still awake.
Yeah!
Always a pleasure.